All right. Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, depending on what part of the world you're joining us from. So we have a session here today, AI Made Easy. We're really going to sort of dig down a little bit deeper and have a look at what AI means, and particularly what it means in an educational context. And the real sort of byline of this session was how can teachers easily customize AI to improve their learning. And that's the thing we're going to try and do. We're going to have a look at a few really easy ways for you to be able to customize some AI and improve your learning. With me today, I have Rob McTaggart. Rob, you want to say hi, brother?
Hi, everybody. How are you all?
Here we go. So I was just saying before we started the recording, Rob's my very best friend in the world, and he's helping me today. And he is, I was about to say uber geek, but that's probably a bit harsh. But he is an extremely talented person, and we will all benefit from the inclusion and having him here today.
It's very kind and wrong, but I'll accept it. Thanks.
I've got my lovely Indigenous art background here for a reason at the moment, because for those people who are unfamiliar, in Australia, whenever we gather, we have a tradition that we acknowledge country and we pay tribute to the First Nations peoples. So the lands on which we all gather today, and looking here, we were just talking before that we have people from 3 continents gathering here today. So we are coming from the lands of many nations, and we pay respect to all the First Nations peoples of the lands upon which we meet. I do actually have with me here, you might be able to see, I actually have one of my brothers, one of my very good friends, is an Indigenous artist, and he collects a lot of traditional materials to use in his art. And what I like to do, if we're in here together, I don't know if you can see that, but I'm just pouring out here some of the red desert sand from the Australian desert, from the outback of Australia. And what I often like to do when we meet in person is actually have people sort of run their fingers through this red desert sand. And we know that we have connection to country, we pay respect to country, the physical land of the country, and also the First Nations peoples and the place that we gather. And as part of that respect, I guess, we know that one of the ways in First Nation cultures that information was passed on was in story, passed on from person to person as they gather and talked. Today, we're going to keep that tradition alive because we're gathering here, albeit virtually and digitally, we're gathering here to talk, to share knowledge and to share learning. So with that in mind, we will move on to our session. And let me share my slide deck. And can you all see my screen if I do that? Those 2 handsome young men there.
Yeah.
Perfect. AI Made Easy. Let's customize our own AI. So let's move into this. So obviously we have acknowledged country already, and I would like to just clarify a few terms. First, the most important thing to clarify is Rob and I are teachers. We are not AI experts. We're not coming here from working with any high-tech website or any high-tech sort of tech industry company. We're educators, and we love and have a passion for utilizing technology and leveraging technology to improve learning. So everything that we do today is coming from a teacher's perspective, not a tech expert's perspective. So just to put that in mind. We want to clarify a few things, what AI is, what voice is. I'm going to talk a lot about voice today, smart spaces. I'm a big believer in the use of smart spaces. So if you think of your Alexa devices, if you think of your Google Home, those type of things that you can just have there to talk and communicate with, we don't have these now in schools because of a lot of legal restrictions, student data, etc. But I can't see a reason why somehow in the next few years, as society comes to grips with AI, as society comes to grips with the legislation that will be involved around data usage, we'll have smart spaces in our classrooms. Particularly, I can just imagine if you had a child coming from another country, a new arrival who walks in, doesn't speak the language, but is able to walk over to a wall or walk over to an area of a classroom and speak to a device that will then translate so that the teacher can actually communicate. So day one, we can actually have quality learning occurring in that classroom for a child who might not even speak the language of the country in which they're attending school that particular day. I think it's very powerful. And we look at other students who have various learning needs and how smart spaces may be able to help alleviate and create a situation where there's more equity with learning within a classroom environment. The smart space is very much in sync with voice, and I've got my Alexa device here that we're going to show, and I'm actually going to in this session show everybody how to make their own skill in Alexa. But Rob, do you want to have a bit of a clarity over AI and automation and some of the things that you're going to talk about?
Well, I'm sure we've all heard these terms at least once or twice or 1,000 times now, and they're used in varying ways. But artificial intelligence or AI is generally the umbrella term over which we're talking about algorithms, software, computers doing some choosing based on data, based on inputs. They're making choices, and they could do that in a variety of ways. They could be set up in all sorts of ways, but machine-based learning is a part of that, and it's those systems where the machine or the computer or the software is actually trying to learn itself from the data. And so we're trying to make the machine the learner. So that's fairly specific machine-based learning, and it is a big direction for people like Elon Musk and lots of the big companies that are trying to do some very interesting things around general artificial intelligence and some specific more narrow focused things in narrow artificial intelligence or narrow AI. But machine-based, that's really about the computer being the learner and then offering that back to all the users. But artificial intelligence is really that umbrella term, and it can mean a whole lot of things around just essentially the computers doing some of the thinking for us, although it might not be thinking in a pedagogical term. For instance, automation is very important as part of this discussion, because if the computer is just doing all that thinking itself, what's that actually making happen for us as the people in society, or for our students, or in our home, for instance? And automation, that is those systems where robots or something physical is happening for us. And so usually when we're talking about AI, there's this big crossover between what's actually happening in the background and what's actually happening for us physically. And so one without the other, pretty much useless. And so both really come together. So we'll be looking at both a bit today, I believe.
Yeah, and one of the cool things, and I might just let you know, Rob, we're very excited that we scheduled to be 15 minutes before we kicked off and to the first one of our hands-on sort of sessions, or our how-to sessions. So we're exactly on time to the minute right now, so that's good. But we wanted to sort of clarify the first few moments, just what is AI, how could it sit in schools, and then we're going to dive in and go through two worked examples step by step on how you could actually customize your own AI. So I'll do one with Alexa as a voice assistant sort of tool that you can use to help students with their studying. And Rob will also do one that has potential to be very useful in the sense of checking on a student's well-being. So just move along with the slide deck. So just a statement of clarity, what you can do and where can you do it. So this is actually, I alluded to this a little bit earlier. This can get a little bit tricky because different countries, different districts, different states have various laws about AI and various laws about student privacy and data collection. Here in Australia, a company needs to have a localized server and data needs to be stored locally before we can do certain things. So before you can pick up some of the ideas that we're going to talk about today, it's really going to be important for you to check what can you do in your state, or what can you do legally in your district. One of the things I'm going to show today is actually using this Alexa device. Now, I can't actually make my Alexa device and use it in my classroom because of the student voice and laws for collecting data, people under 16 years old, all that sort of stuff. So what I've set this up as, I've set up as a study sort of tool that people can opt into or not opt into, and they might be able to use in their home as a home environment if they want, open, not me as a teacher saying my class must use this, not part of my direct instruction. It's just a larger suite of tools that you can use that parents can choose from. I'll be honest with you, I set up this Alexa device for my own son who's doing HSC biology. And so I set up Alexa to help him study for HSC biology with all past questions. So HSC, for those who aren't from New South Wales, the state that I'm in, is the final year's exam. So their final year exams studying biology, and I've created this interactive skill to help him study for that. And I'll show you that example of that today. So as we move on, just a quick shout out as an appreciation to this lady here, Julie Daniel Davis. A few months ago, Rob and I had a sit-down sort of chat with her. She is American, so it was a sit-down chat virtually, three of us in 3 different cities. And we really started to talk about AI and voice assistants. About a year or so ago, I was taken on an AI safari here in Sydney with some of the big tech companies and looking at how AI was being used at a number of big tech companies. And from that moment on, I've really been trying to think of how can I, as a teacher, take control of using AI rather than as a passive user of someone's using AI and I'm using their tool. How can I actually get in control of it and decide how it's used and make my own and customize my own? Julie helped a lot, crystallize a lot of my ideas, and really that's what led to the creation of that biology study app. So I just wanted to pay respect and say thank you to her.
Absolutely, she's a leader in this space for sure.
Yeah, look, if you're that's her Twitter handle there. If you want to check out a little bit more, she'd be a great person to tap into.
Yeah, and I'll just add to what Brett said, if you don't mind, Brett. Is that okay?
Yeah, bro.
I'll just add to the fact that you said, yeah, it's worthwhile actually learning about using some of these products so that we as the teachers can lead the discussions, can hopefully lead some of the decisions about what is going to happen in classrooms over the next 10 years or however many years, because this is a very important field. If we don't learn about it, if we don't focus on it, it is something that's going to happen to education from the outside rather than being what should always be happening, where the educators are leading what the future of education is.
Yeah, we definitely need a seat at the table of that discussion.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go away from here and just come back to me for a moment. All right. So, whoops. Hey, Mona. So I've got my little Amazon Echo. Oh, I might just take off my background so that you can see it. Quickly. All right. I've got my Alexa not listening because I've said Alexa so many times she'd be beeping along an awful lot. But I thought I might just show you how one of the skills that I have made works. So I've only made two skills. One, a big nerdy sort of dad jokes for my kids, so my kids can get dad jokes from Alexa, some dodgy jokes that I've made up for them, and also I've got that biology pardon me, that biology study thing. So let me just go here. Oh, just turning Alexa on. Alexa, could you play Brett's dad jokes?
I don't have a joke about that.
No. Alexa, open Brett's dad jokes.
Big Daddy Salakas has some jokes for you. What does a calf call its father? Daddy Steerest.
Daddy Steerest. All right, done. All right, Alexa, stop.
Can I? Love you, Dad.
No.
Kayli, Brianna,
Alright.
Ethan, Rory and Riley.
All right, love you too, Alexa. All right, so let me show my screen for a moment, and then I will go through. And what I used to make this was actually a thing called Alexa Blueprints. Oh,
Sorry, I don't know that one.
let me just turn her off. Okay, so Alexa is off for a second. So Alexa Blueprints. Now these are basic templates, and you just go in if you have your Amazon account. It doesn't cost anything. It literally costs $0 if you've got one. You'll see here I've made 2 skills. I've got dad jokes and biology study session. So if I wanted to sort of play my biology study session, I'll open this up. I've used a trivia template, and I've created, so you can see here you've got all these different templates to use, these blueprints to use, and I can go in and sort of edit along, and then the text that you've put in, you can interact via voice. So I've got here, polio is an infectious disease caused by what? Multiple choice here. And then a follow-up fact, polio is transmitted through contaminated water. Cholera is an infectious disease caused by, you see all different ones. The antigens in a vaccine cause the body to produce what? Activated toxins, antibodies, follow-up facts. So these are all sort of bits of information I've taken from past HSC examinations. So it's all up-to-date, current curriculum syllabus sort of information, and it's just in that sort of nice way for a child to rehearse and study. We know if I was using this in my class, if I was actually being able to sort of use this in my classroom, if my local laws permitted, we know that when you make questions, that's a good way to actually memorize and study. So if students were able to make their own trivia session, so make their own Alexa study, that's good traditional pedagogy, just using a modern tool to apply to that. So what I might do is biology study session, just show you that's sort of the back end. You literally just use the template and then enter in the information, and then when you publish it, you get to play. So I'm just going to go off, and I'll turn Alexa back on and let you have a look at Alexa in action, and then we'll just make one live. I'll show you how easy it is. It's crazy simple. It's crazy simple to be able to make one from scratch. So I'm just going to turn this on. Alexa, open biology study session.
Welcome to your biology study trivia session. 1 to 4 players can play. How many are playing?
Here we go. We'll go 1 to 4 players. Does anyone want to volunteer to play?
Say a number from 1 through 4.
All right, we'll do Mona and Rob. You can play. So
Very good.
2.
Say a number from 1 through 4.
2.
Player 1, give me a nickname to call you, like Rocking Robin or Crazy Cat.
Magic Mona.
Hi, Magic Mona. Welcome to this study session. Good luck. I hope you learn something new. To revise your player name, say undo. Player 2, give me a nickname to call you.
Rocking Rob.
Hi, A. Welcome to this study session. Good luck. I hope you learn something new. Let's start. Remember to answer quickly.
All right, we'll just do one question
First
each.
to 5 points wins. To undo an answer, say undo. This first question is for Magic Mona.
All right, Magic Mona, you're up.
Which of the following is part of the innate immune response? Is the answer 1. Antibodies, 2. Phagocytes, or 3. Stomach acid?
1, 2, or 3.
1.
I didn't hear a possible answer. Please choose from 1. Antibodies, 2. Phagocytes, or 3. Stomach acid?
Antibodies.
You said 1. Antibodies. Sorry, that's incorrect.
I think
The
Alexa
correct answer
expects
was phagocytes.
a number, doesn't it?
The main purpose of the innate immune response is
this
to immediately
template.
prevent the spread and movement of foreign pathogens throughout
And
the
then
body.
I've put in like a little, if you get it wrong, a little explanation on what the actual thing is. Alexa, stop.
Can you
I didn't even
control
get a
how
go.
fast it goes?
Alexa,
That's
stop.
right. Is it possible
There
to
you go.
control?
Let's have some questions because that was fun.
Is it possible to control how quickly it asks questions?
I haven't got into checking the speeds. There's a whole bunch within the blueprint. There's a number of prompts that you can either add in, like I've added in some sounds, the cheering and all that sort of stuff. So if you can probably eliminate some things if you wanted to speed it up. Yeah.
Brett, do you know if Google, I've got a Google Home, do you know if they have anything similar?
I'm not.
Yeah, I've looked at that myself. It's very identical in terms of that setup where you're doing the quiz stuff.
Yeah.
So it is basically the same setup.
So you can make them in Google too, can you?
Yeah. I actually think that probably the Google's got maybe more ability to do more things. I just think because Google's got a lot more behind them as far as the, I guess, AI analytics and stuff like that.
Okay, Rob, do you know what it's called in Google, what you go into?
Oh, so that's Bryce, I think. Bryce is giving
Yeah,
that.
look,
Sorry.
I started looking at doing something a bit different with it, but it did get a bit confusing for me. I was trying to, I wanted to get a parrot when I get my new house, and when I'd leave the house, I wanted it to speak to my parrot to teach my parrot. That was my idea behind it, so I could just leave and it would talk to the parrot all day. But I haven't got around to really putting my head down and thinking about it that much, because when I went in to look at the Google tools, I saw all the questionnaire stuff, and that looked pretty straightforward, but I wanted to take it where it was going to keep doing a repetitive task all day.
That's hilarious.
That is funny.
Bryce, very quickly, Bryce,
Yeah.
since you've started using Google, does it then integrate with Google Classroom or not?
I don't know in terms of those devices.
Could I interject and say I'm thinking probably not because of a lot of the restrictions on the student data. Using particularly in Australia, I don't know what it's like in other countries, but the way I've set this up for my son to be able to use and study at home is because there's a cat. Is because you can't actually take this at the moment into classroom in Australia and start using, because it automatically starts recording student voices and things like that. So I would say they probably haven't got integration with Google Classroom yet. It's something that would be possible. And this is why we were saying, like, it's important for teachers to start taking control of these types of discussion. What we're doing now is really the early first steps on actually claiming and taking charge of the discussion of integrating these types of tools within education, because in that way we can determine how that happens rather than a big tech company just say this is how it works and then we've got to try and adapt to them.
So Brett, that was one template, or I think Alexa calls them, or Amazon calls them
Yeah,
blueprints,
Alexa
don't
calls
they?
them blueprints.
Was that the listening quiz?
No. So let me share my screen and show.
Because there's quite a few of them, isn't there?
There's
like a
heaps of
story quiz, and there's open-ended
quite
ones where it's not multiple choice. I think that's really exciting.
Yeah. So let me share my screen again and then go through and have a look at some of the options for Blueprint. So So there are some cool things. Oh, just turn Alexa off. The university posting lectures and would be, I think, is a potential great tool for if you were. There's a blog one as well. So if you linked in your blog as a blog reader, or you were doing a presentation, even like this, where we could record it and then post it as something that your students could listen to later. I think that has potential. These two have potential for the classroom. Obviously, there's open-ended quizzes, but there's a whole range here. You see, there's a whole range of various templates that you just click
Learning
in.
and knowledge. Look, there's a whole category there. And what's good, when you click in on these, I've found that you can always hear a sample. So you can get an idea of what it's trying to do and see if it kind of matches what you want to do with students.
We can have a look at one now, and then I can show you one from scratch. In fact, that was the idea, was that I'd sort of show you the example of one that I've made, and then we can to sort of walk you through how crazy easy it is to set one of these up with the blueprints. We'll pick one and make one live now. Before I do that, does anyone have a question at this point?
What does it do with languages, Brett? Does it take other languages, or is it just English based?
That's a very good question. I haven't really tried anything with I don't. You know what? There must be a way, because obviously Amazon is available in multiple countries, so it would need to have that back-end information of multiple languages. So I'm sure when I log in, I have a US Amazon account and an Australian Amazon account. So depending on which one I log in, I've got skills in the US one and skills in the Australian one, just because that's the way I set it up. Because Keisha, you might not know this, but Amazon's only relatively newish in Australia. You guys had it for a long time before we had it. We've only had Amazon for about, I don't even know if it would be 2 years now. Maybe.
What Amazon do say is that, note that not all blueprints are available for all languages. For example, an English blueprint may not be available in Spanish or vice versa. So it's, that tells me that there are different languages. I think you'd have to explore though, to almost log in with each different language.
When you set your Amazon account, you've set language and you can set region in your Amazon account. So that would probably give you the various different things. Let's have a look at this quiz. There's open-ended, so it's a little bit more open-ended than that one that I sort of shared before that had just multiple choice. So make your own quiz. You see here, it gives you like a little audio that you can play, and it will give you an example. It shows you some of the interactions that is possible, and then gives you a few steps on this is what you will do. This is how it will run. So let's make one. Okay, we'll customize this quiz. So it comes in, it's got a few preset questions. I'm just going to get rid of these questions. And let's add a blank question. To make this go a little bit faster, I sort of just quickly set up some space facts here. So I thought we'll make a quick space, because I know space is one of Rob's favorite topics.
It's also your favorite topic, Brett. So
it is my favorite topic. It is definitely not Rob's favorite topic. It's mine. So what year was the Hubble telescope launched into space? 1990 is going to be the answer.
Any Seinfeld fans? Who invaded Spain in the 8th century? Come on. The Moops. No, all right. I was watching it last night.
No idea.
That was the Bubble Boy episode. It was fantastic. The Moops. It was the Moors, but yeah, all good.
I've got here, first question's done now. So I've got my question, I've got my answer, and I've got my follow-up fact. I'll do another one. Keisha, the experience is where we start to put in the sounds and the speed of what we can do. I think the speed, we'll have a look at how much we can play with that. I'll put in a second question, so we've got 2 questions in this quiz. What's the largest planet in our solar system? Jupiter. One of the cool things you do here as well, so there's 3 options. When you publish this, you have 3 options to publish. So the first option is just publish to your device in your home. No one else can see it. And that's what I've done with the dad jokes one. There is a second option where you can share it. So you can get a link and then push that link out to select people. You can email them or message them or just copy the link and paste it to them. Post on Twitter even, straight to your socials on what you want to do. And then the third one is you actually publish it live as a skill that anyone in the world can look at and anyone in the world can sort of download and use. So I could make a biology, I could flesh out my biology study to have even more questions in it and then actually push that to a skill that literally anyone in the globe with an Echo device would be able to then access and use and study. So the potential here to have huge scalability with some projects that you want to do is enormous, but also at the same time, you can keep it nice and neat and tight just for your selected students or just for selected people. So we go into experience here. I get to sort of say how long she's going to talk for. Give her, if you want her to talk a lot, Keisha, you can give her a lot to say. If you want her to talk a little bit, you can pick what sounds. Human baby cry, that's a bit clearing the throat. Clear out applause, boo. A drinking slurp. Let's have a drinking slurp as the introduction sound. And we can then set all of the different ways that she can greet the students or the people who are playing. And we've got all these sorts of things here, like again, quiz responses. So this is where we fine tune that experience. So we customize. We've got that full customization of what she says, what sound is made, and all these sorts of things. All quite customizable. Some of the I've got the Echo Dot. Some of the Amazon Echoes have a screen, so you can have the screen up here as well. You can see there's a fair bit there that you can customize. Just for speed, I won't do that now. I'll go here, my space quiz, all this, and create the skill. And it will just take a few minutes and it will process and actually turn into a playable skill. Normally takes maybe, there you go, I was going to say normally takes about 5 minutes or so. It just takes a couple of minutes. What I might do while that's processing, how about we transition and then perhaps at the ending we can go and actually use Alexa and see how that sounds as our space quiz. We might just move on in our session. So let me share my screen back to the slide deck. I hope that was fun. I was super excited just to show people just how crazy easy it is to make your own voice assistant that is going to support learning. Imagine if you had a child that, there was no one at home to read with them, but they had this device. There was, it just can personalize the learning experience so much, especially like there's those listening things. So you could, if you had a child who was sick or unable to get to school, like there's the potential use for the pedagogical practice is enormous. We are literally just at the tip of the iceberg on what we can do and what we can play with in this area.
What about our students who don't have an Echo or some other Alexa device?
Thanks for. Well, I guess
the Google Home app, I think, has the same features.
Yep.
So even if you just use the app on your phone, it's the same thing.
Yep. And that's totally right. And I was just throwing you that because I knew the answer as well. Thanks, the same. It's the same with Alexa. You can put it on any device. So whatever they've got, they can use that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, thank you. Because there's the actual app within your phones and stuff that you can interact with as well. So, yeah,
And be
it's
kind.
quite.
Be kind to Brett, everybody. It's morning, and he's not a morning person.
I did have to quickly make breakfast for my boys within about 5 minutes before getting on. It was a very rushed job making breakfast.
Because I know you even knew the answer to that. We've chatted about it. So.
All right. What I'm going to do though is I want to talk here just very quickly within the next 5 minutes about a couple of really cool AI avenues to go down. So let's talk about AI. I've got these 3 things here we just want to dive in just very quickly. This person does not exist. Marking written work and APIs. I want to show you this really cool thing that uses AI that is called This Person Does Not Exist. So if I go to this website here, and the website is literally called thispersondoesnotexist.com, and there is an AI algorithm set up to create that every time I push refresh, the AI will replicate various features of a human and create a facial image of some person who is not an actual person. This person here does not exist. Literally, this person does not exist. So if we have a look here, it's either very, very exciting or very, very scary, freaky, with the dangers of what they call like deep fake sort of stuff. So this is the surface level of deep fake, where you can actually use AI to create something that is not real. This lady here does not exist in the world. If I go here again, this man does not exist. Every time you push refresh, the AI will generate a different image of a person who is not a real person.
I've been watching this website for a few months, and it is improving as well. I've been watching this for a few months, and it's definitely improving. You used to see quite a few artifacts around the pictures. You could tell quite easily that it had been photoshopped here or there. Now I find as long as there isn't a hat or some kind of other accessory in there, it's very difficult to tell. And that's because this is machine-based learning that we were talking about before, where the machine is actually improving based on feedback that it's getting. It's learning in the way that machines learn, yeah.
So like I said, either very exciting or very scary, depending on your interpretation of it. I was actually thinking, sometimes we know as educators you can't ever show images of people. I know whenever I've got a photo of my classroom or a photo of someone, I always put a big emoji in front, because you definitely don't want to show an image of someone who you're not allowed to use. But if ever you need an image of a person, this person does not exist is a good place, because there's no one going to sue you because that person does not exist. But look, what I also wanted to talk about is the use of AI to help with marking students' written work. Now, there are a number of tools that are coming out, and I've seen sort of being developed in the last year or so, that a student can submit, or your class can submit, a written work. And we use this on a simpler level with autocorrect, and we use this on a simple level with Grammarly. But there are some tools specifically made for students' written work, university level sort of work, high school level written work, where the AI algorithms can actually pick up the intent of the writing, and will actually look at the paragraph structure, the written structure, the grammatical structure, the technical language, and then actually tell the student how to write a better essay, make suggestions on restructuring the flow of the essay. This needs to go here, and it'll make suggestions and actually improve the quality of the written work of the student. It also, a lot of these tools will also then generate a list for the teachers, a report for the teacher, so the teacher can see, wow, okay, in my class, 68% of my students had an issue with this, 38% had this. So the teacher gets then laser focused sort of explicit information, explicit data on, I need to do a particular lesson on these types of grammatical tools or this type of structure within my writing to help develop the student's written ability. So AI is being really, really powerful, and it's rapidly improving in this area of improving student writing. So there's a lot of exciting things to look at. Rob, I know you wanted to talk about APIs and how different tools can sort of link in with each other.
But I'll be quick because I know we're a bit behind our schedule. But where do I start? But basically, I was explaining how there is a separation between the actual AI that's happening in the background. So often they're tools like you might have heard of IBM Watson that's been used in one trivia shows. Deep Blue, I think, was the chess player, wasn't it? But
Yeah,
more
Deep
than
Blue is
that,
chess.
the ones that are available these days, as well as Watson, we've got Google's Cloud Vision, it's called, and AWS. I'm not sure what theirs is called, but on Azure, which is the Microsoft sort of backend tool, they have a lot of cognitive systems, that part of their cognitive package, and essentially what all of these are doing. There are open source ones, there are small teams working on it, but there are also these big companies working on it. And what they're all doing, they're usually processing something to be able to give some kind of output. And usually that's text, like you were talking about, Brett. You were talking about marking written work, for instance. They're processing text and they're analyzing text and giving you feedback based on that. Or they're analyzing images, sometimes videos as well, usually by chopping up it into frames. But yeah, the most common is that we're analyzing text and we're analyzing images, and that's probably the most pertinent to in the classroom. However, we don't necessarily feel like as teachers, especially I imagine a few of us are fairly techie teachers, at least kind of as far as our school's concerned, we might be, the top 10% of our teachers in the school. We don't necessarily feel like we've got access to those tools. The reason is we can't really become programmers while we're focusing on our students as well. But what we do have are certain APIs, which are stands for application, programming interface. Anyway, just use the term API. And all that is, it's a way for different software to talk to each other. And because those exist, we actually do get access through a number of avenues. And I want to show you a couple of those now. Interesting background there, Brett. So
yeah. Well, I went from my Lego space background now, since we were talking about that space tool before. But what we might do, we've got about or just under 15 minutes left. Do you want to jump into your set, because that's a nice segue with the APIs and integrating sort of information tools?
Yeah, well, one I'll share. I'll just share my screen there. Just let me know when that pops up.
Yep, it's up.
This is Metaverse, and Metaverse is an AR tool, augmented reality. And so what you can do in here is build AR experiences for, which is like mixed reality almost, experiences for your students, or you can have your students build them themselves. What's very interesting about this is it gives access straight to that Google Cloud Vision that I was talking about. This here is one that I made that was very simple. It's called Smile for Me. And if you're very quick, you can use that that QR code there to actually get a look at this particular little experience that I've made. I'm going to click through in 3, 2, or 1. And this is the editing screen. So a student could easily make that themselves. It takes just a little bit of computational thinking to actually put it together. And essentially, all it is, it takes you through a set of screens or scenes, and it says, show me your best smile. And then you click through to the next, and then it opens up the camera app on whatever phone you've got. And so then you take a picture of yourself. Then it has this little block here called Is Happy. And this is the way that Metaverse actually plugs into that Google Vision. Based on that, it will go in one of two directions. And if you just look over here, if the person is happy, then it will go to scene 3 and say, wow, what a great smile. If the person who has their picture taken is not happy, then it will go, oh, are you sad? You should spend more time glittering in the sun like me. So
the AI can determine the facial expression, or the emotional on the person's face in the image.
That's right. But what I'm trying to point out here is Metaverse didn't program themselves. They're plugging in to that API of Google Cloud. We can do that through lots of different ed tech tools that are starting to come out, or we can actually use a lot of automation tools to even build our own very simply. For instance, something like this, and giving access to students to be able to control things using AI directly is a very good way to start to have them thinking about the impacts on society and where they're going to fit in with all of this AI coming out. But this block here, all it's doing is sending the photo to Google Cloud. Again, let's talk about data, but and privacy. But and then sending back whether a person in there is feeling happy or sad. But if you click Add New, you can do the same sort of thing with all sorts of things. I can count how many faces are in a photo. I can see what the object is that you're taking a picture of. And so I've used that and I've said, hey, take a picture of some food. And then it ends up putting it on a Metaverse, a photo wall, if it is actually food. But if it's not, it doesn't put it on that wall. And so you can say any object, and Google Cloud Vision will actually tell you what objects are in the photo as best it can using its AI tools, image processing. And you can also say, is there text in the picture and what does the text say? So already you have a lot of powerful access to a lot of different things just by using that. That's a free service, Metaverse, not as well supported as it was a year or two ago, but it's still very functional and very interesting to use with your students or for your students. You can just have them open ones that you use themselves in similar ways to what you were doing with Alexa there. But I'm going
that being able to detect the emotions. While we jump to your next screen, that being able to detect emotions is what really got me excited when we were talking a few weeks ago about this, and why I really wanted to grab you into this session. Rob introduced me to a new term, which is effectively a little bit of what he just showed there, sentiment detection. So that sentiment detection for the AI to be able to look at either the image or the text, the context of your written word to see how you're feeling. And with so many people at the moment, with obviously under increased stress because of the glorious year that is 2020, being able to perhaps look and utilize these tools to investigate emotional intelligence, I think is particularly powerful. So I'm very, very excited. So we're sort of leading up to here what I think could be a particular game changer. Not something that is super ready right now, and I don't mean that in any disrespectful sense, Rob, but I think it's something that very much could/should be investigated by educators.
Yeah, and look, we threw this up in a few minutes, just on a whim, because we had a quick idea about something that we could do to show people some useful AI. But what's really interesting, what is the game changer, I think, is that any of you can do the same thing. You have an idea, you see a gap that's happening, especially, I mean, the amount of gaps that are happening right now for our students as they're sometimes learning from home, the things that they're missing out on, what they could be doing, and maybe the opportunities in that as well. If you're a teacher and thinking, how can I help my students? I'd love to be able to put together this app or something similar. You can do that because you can access, I say you may be able to access some of these very useful AI tools. And I want to show you one example of a way that you can do it.
We've got about 5 more minutes left of the recorded session. We can hang
so
out for some questions afterwards. Are you right to dive in and show?
I'm going to dive in now, but I'm not going to build it live for that reason. But I will show you enough that you can go and have a go yourself. This is an example. This is an example using Microsoft Teams, but you wouldn't have to do it using and Flow, Microsoft Flow, which is now called Power Automate. Remember how we were talking about automation? There are many tools that do a similar thing. We were looking at IFTTT, if this, then that. We were looking at Zapier. Flow is very interesting because it plugs into all the Google ones, but there are many tools you can use, and especially if you're starting to think about plugging into those APIs. But if you go to Microsoft Flow, and if you have Teams in your school, for instance, then you may actually have access to Flow. You just go to flow.microsoft.com and sign in with your school email and see what you can make. This is really about automation. It's not just about AI, but you can plug AI into these automative tasks. I use this a lot with the work that I do, not necessarily in schools at the moment, but in the school system, and very, very useful. I go to my flows. I've created, actually, for anybody that just wants to experiment but may not have the access that they want, you can actually set up a Microsoft developer account and play with all of their tools for some of it about 6 months, for some of it about 12 months. So that's what I've done. So I have ownership of all of these tools right now that I can just experiment with. So if I click new, I can create a new tool, and you can create an instant one or one that's scheduled every day. And so I'm going to make a scheduled one, but here's one that I prepared earlier. And I'm just going to say I want to edit my flow. Now, flow is just something that's automated, that's doing it for you. At the moment, this is manually triggered. But what I would do is replace that manual trigger with a schedule. Maybe that happens every morning. And the idea of this particular flow is to send a message to a student, to all of my students within a channel on Teams, so one that they all have access to, just to ask them how they're feeling in the morning. It's very simple. The basic look of it is something like, this is my general channel here, something like this. I'm going to run it right now before I show you how it works. I'll just do a test run. I'll perform the trigger. And if you've never used Flow before, this might look a bit confusing, but hopefully, look, it's not very hard to use, certainly to get started.
So
what
you
is
just
done?
need to put in your sequence of activities.
Yeah.
And what Rob's done here, so a prompt to say how you are feeling. The student does the text back. Then he has
Here
got
it is.
this
Welcome
other
to a new day.
tool.
How are you feeling this morning? So I'll show you that, Brett. But first, I'll just say I'm feeling terrible. Why do I have to even do this work? I hate my school studies. So that's really negative, right? I would like to workshop with my teacher today. You could click that on or off. I'm just going to submit that. And so once that's submitted, it will say something. You can change this as you like. Thanks for letting me know how you're feeling. Now, what we do with that, that's really up to us, where that data goes. But the automation of that, what's actually happened there, I triggered it. It posted the card out. So here's all the stuff that it did. It sent, and then I got back, I'm feeling terrible. That's in the multi-line value, as I've called it.
Oh, you know what? Is everybody else seeing it? Because I'm still on the page that shows your trigger flow. I'm not seeing what's happening that you're talking.
Rob, you got to share your desktop screen. Rob?
I thought I was.
Yeah,
no,
I'm seeing it okay. I'm seeing okay.
Oh, you're okay. I'm wondering if it was just me or not, because nobody was saying anything.
So that's me in Teams here, where I responded.
Yeah,
and this is back in Flow.
Any of that. I see just your manual trigger flow. I see the workflow portion.
Okay, well, I'm showing the workflow right
I
now.
can
What
see
I'll
where
do, I'll just unshare and then I'll share again.
Yeah, unshare and
it could
share
just be
again.
Teams playing up for us.
It. I could see it, so it might be an issue. I could see it fine. It might be an issue.
Teams have done some very big updates over the last month, and every now and again there's something like this happens. So hopefully you can see in Teams.
Yes, now I see your code. I see it now. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So this here was the card that the student was sent, or me as the student, and this is the flow. Now there's 4 things that are going on. I manually triggered it. I posted the adaptive card, and then it detected the sentiment. And what we have here is a number that is very close to 0. And so what this detect sentiment does, this is the AI that I'm plugged into. it's actually saying this is close to 0. This is a very negative sentiment. If it was close to 1, like 0.95 or something, then I would know that it's very positive. And so this is used a lot by marketers and branding companies, things like that, to look on social media like Twitter and to say, hey, how are people feeling about our product or our service? But it could be very useful for things like well-being, so that we're alerted straight away if one of our students is feeling very, very negative about something, that we need to go and help them at the source in the moment. And so that's why I wanted to show you this as an example, because based on that, I could say if that number is less than 0.2, then send me a text message so I don't have to wait to see it, or something like that, like so that it tells me straight away. Or maybe send a message that is notify my teacher's aide or support learning officer or something like that, or school counselor, so that they can help them in the moment. Or it could just trigger you to put it on a list of people you're going to call that day, so that you can have a chat face to face with this student.
I just when we first discussed this, I just thought with I mean, obviously this is an EdTech tool, so obviously it's an appropriate thing. But with 2020 being the way it is, and with us needing to be more aware of student well-being, something like this is a genuine opportunity for us to actually utilize technology, do exactly what I said at the start of this session. Let's utilize technology to benefit our students and benefit our school. So this is something that we can put in the event of a learning from home scenario, where we're able as teachers just a quick, easy touch base. It can be automated so that it goes at that same time at the start of each day. And as the child answers, then we've got that, oh, you know what, I need to check in on that kid and make sure they're doing all right.
Absolutely.
So it's, I think I said to you, Rob, and I might get you to put your screen down for a sec, so we can have some human interaction, and I have my face, my big face up on the screen.
Well, if I can just wrap that up in a little.
All right, you go. I'll finish this thing, because I just want to say what I think we need to do is there's an opportunity here to utilize this technology to actually enhance humanity, and that's why that's why I thought your idea was so powerful, because here we are talking about something very technical, something very, very AI scary, that whole deep fake gives people the heebie-jeebies. But here's an opportunity for us to dictate the way it's being delivered, and as a result, actually increase humanity and increase that personal connection we have with our students. Sorry, Rob, go.
Yeah, well, I mean, we came up with that on a whim, and it's just a simple little idea. You may or may not have access to a couple of these tools. You probably have access to Flow if you're using Teams in your school, but you probably don't have access based on licensing. You may have had access, but Microsoft's changed their licenses recently. You may not have access to the text analytics, to those AI things in the background. They might be premium or something like that. So that's annoying. So first off, we as citizen developers, which every teacher is a citizen developer because we're all making resources, whether they're very technical or not. We as citizen developers need to say we need access to all of these AI tools so that we can build out things as we need to using this availability. That's my first thought. My second thought is, though, don't feel hesitant to actually jump in and give these things a go. Try out different options. There are many different open source chatbot opportunities and things like that. But if we meet our students where they are on social media or just in Google Classroom and Teams as they have to use it, and give them chances to open dialogue with us, especially even if it's a daily sort of habit, then I think we're creating connections with them more, rather than it doesn't have to be the AI that's talking to them. It could just be that is doing us a favor and triaging a little bit for us, because we need that as teachers, especially when it's more difficult to just sidle up alongside them and say, hey, how you going? So anyway, that's my thoughts on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Look, what I might do is thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Thank you immensely, Rob. I'm very happy to.
Thanks.
I always love getting to hang out with my best friend. and to be able to hang out and do something really cool for educators. I might end the recording now, and then if we want to have some questions and continue, feel free to sort of stay on, and we can have a little bit of a light chat. So let me just finish this, and I'll stop the recording.